It's Thursday, March the 30th. But I'm going to try to get a little more consistent with my fishing reports. Last week I was up at Lake of the Ozarks, didn't get a chance to do one. So I'm going to try to get back on track doing them Wednesdays. But the lake level had come up a bunch. It come up 6.5 feet. It was 921 and a half. It is currently like 919 and a half. It's come down 2 feet, which is still 4.5 feet over normal winter pool. But if you've been around the lake, you'll notice certain areas are really muddy, certain areas are real clear. But I guess I'll start off with, I fished Tuesday and today. Tuesday we fished around Kimbling City, and the water from about Kimbling City Bridge down towards the dam is still real clear. You get up around towards Joe Bald, and where the White and the James come together, and there's a lot of kind of brown, pretty muddy color coming in. But the creeks in that area are still clear if you go back in. Now you go further up the river arms, now I know like Jackson Hollow and Ants Creek, it's all still pretty brown. Today we went way up into the James River and Flat Creek, and we started around Cape Fair, and the water temperature was about 54 degrees first thing this morning. Didn't get that cold last night. But the further up either river, whether it was Flat Creek or the James, the water got really good shape. Nice pretty green color. We got rid of a lot of that brown. They still got floodgates open. They're sucking a lot of water through the lake. So what it's doing is pull all that mud and everything out of the rivers. And you'll even notice that once they get it down a little more, then the creeks will start to clear up. It'll start to pull the water out of the creeks. But as far as Tuesday, when we fished around Kimbling, we really struggled. I think we had 5 bites. I think we caught 4 of them on a little 2.8 and a 3.3 pro swimmer, big bite on a 1/4 ounce head. We threw a lot of different baits. We threw a lot of spinnerbaits, a lot of crankbaits. We had 1 bite on a rock crawler. But just down in that clear end of the lake, there's still a ton of bait out there deep. And we didn't throw an Alabama rig at all. I think in some of the areas where we found a lot of bait, and there's a lot of areas where we found fish under the bait. That's where we caught them on the little swim baits. They're still out there pretty deep. They were out over deep water, but it seemed like the fish were 20 to 25 feet, and the big schools of shad were in that 15 to 20 foot range. And we tried to jerk bait in several areas. Now everything's kind of behind, but I think it should be killer next week. Getting into the 70s and the 80s, and with the color of the water, it's going to warm up really quick, especially if the water stays in the bushes. Depends how much rain we get Friday as far as, what's going to happen with the lake level. But I think things are really going to get active next week. And, today we caught a lot of fish. We caught fish all day long. We caught them on several different baits. But we caught a lot of male fish. And I think like today, if that sun had come out, we'd have caught some bigger fish. I think we couldn't really seem to find where the bigger fish were staging. But, we started out there on a spinnerbait and a chatterbait. And with the color of the water, I had a lot of stuff tied on from Lake of the Ozarks. And spinnerbait I caught them on was a 1/2 ounce, a little Colorado, and a big old gold Indiana blade. And just throwing a white chatterbait up around the bushes on points. We felt like we had to be in areas where the current was. And, that bite seemed like it lasted for about 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours. Probably till about 9:30. Excuse me. And then it quit. But a couple other good spinnerbaits, especially in this dirty water. The coleslaw, I like a lot of painted blades when the water's dirty like this, where it's gold on one side, maybe white or chartreuse on the other. This coleslaw is really good in the dirty water. This is a War Eagle. The other one I showed you was also a War Eagle. Another one we'll throw quite a bit in this stained water. The little red kicker blade. Almost everything we're throwing on a crankbait has got some type of red on it. And what you want to do is reel these real slow. You can keep them up pretty high in the water column. I mean, most of the time we're setting in 8 feet or less, you know, fishing around the bushes and through them. Even on like bluff ends, we'll fish the spinnerbaits on rock as well as we will crankbait. The other baits we caught a lot of fish on, we caught them flipping, and we were flipping a couple different baits. I was flipping a 3/8 ounce 5 fish lures ultimate cover jig with a 3-inch big bite kamikaze craw. And it's a California 420, kind of a dark bait, and it's got some red in the trailer. My buddy was throwing a Zoom Z-Hog, and we caught about the same amount of fish. And every once in a while, excuse me, this cold, I just can't get rid of this cough. But I also caught some fish on creature baits, like a beaver style bait. This is a Strike King structure bug, and you know, black and blue is what he was throwing on his Zoom bait, and I was throwing Okeechobee craw. And like I say, as we got further up, the water got cleaner, where you could probably go to like a watermelon red or, you know, green pumpkin. And we mixed it up quite a bit, but the fish weren't everywhere. But any place you got a bite, you got several bites. Where, you know, a lot of times one of us would be throwing a spinnerbait and one of us would be flipping. And usually, like I say, when you got around the fish, it didn't really matter to them. They either bite the spinnerbait or the flipping bait. And then when the spinnerbait died, it didn't matter whether it was the jig or like a beaver style bait. It just seemed to be more about getting around the fish, which is pretty much always the case. You can't catch them if they're not there. But it seemed like we fished a lot of places, you know, channel swings, and we seemed to do the best up there on the main river and main river pockets that didn't go back in too far. On some of the bluffs that we fished up there, we would get bites on the crankbait on the points and up to about 150, 200 feet back in. And what I was throwing on a crankbait, I was throwing a rock crawler 55, and it seemed like anything in, you know, in the reds and orange. And my buddy was throwing a Fritz flat-sided crankbait, which gets down to about 6 or 7 feet. My rock crawler was getting down to about 12 to 13 feet. And like I say, they seemed like they were just inside the points of them little pockets. We fished a lot of straight bluffs, but it seemed like if it didn't have any kind of indentation or cut, we didn't get a bite on it. But I think there's a lot better bite, you know, up in the Shell Knob area. Depends how dirty, you know, where the Kings River comes in, it's probably pretty dirty, and you get up around Eagle Rock and it gets dirty again. But I think there's a pretty clean stretch of water from the mouth of the Kings up towards like Big M, the Campbell Point area to Baxter. You know, it's like Shell Knob to Baxter. I'll be up there this weekend. I'm looking forward to it because it's got good stain up there. And like I say, the water temperature, it just needs to get up a few more degrees. And with the weather forecasted for next week, we're going to see some 70s and 80s. I think the fish are going to move up quick. I'm just kind of hoping that the water stays in the bushes a couple feet high. I don't want it 10 feet high, but just about like it is just right. But they still got floodgates open. They're pulling the heck out of it. Depends how much rain we get Friday. But look for the next, I mean, it should really turn on next week. You know, and there's still a lot of good fish being caught in that Shriners tournament last weekend. I think there was 4 or 5 stringers in the 20-pound range. So there's still a lot of big fish being caught. I don't know where they're being caught for sure. With what I've seen the last few days that I'm fishing, I haven't seen but a 12 to 14-pound, you know, 5-fish limit bag up on the bank. I think a lot of them bigger fish are still out waiting to come in. Hopefully we get that warm weather first of next week and they'll start moving up. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.